I could see the cloud kind of above Monterey and North Monterey County, kind of out over the ocean. I realized on my face it looked like it was burned, like my cheeks and my nose, and I had kind of a large sore, kind of burnt area on the side of my nose, and then on a couple little lesions.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up. Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. On Thursday, January 16th, a major fire broke out at the Moss Landing lithium battery plant, which is in Monterey County in Northern California. Residents have experienced severe health symptoms since then, including nosebleeds, dizziness, headaches, and respiratory issues, as well as rashes. After I conducted the following interviews with several residents, a community town hall was held last night where hundreds of residents showed up to get answers and express concern over their health symptoms. Let's take a look at some of the moments from that community meeting last night.
This is a lot bigger than here. This is the United States. This is the world. I'm getting phone calls from people across the world. Yay. And this is bigger than any of us thought.
But what's happened here in the last 4 days should never have happened at all.
Amen.
And it can't happen again. There are a lot of really powerful forces in this state, and actually in this country, that want to see these batteries in place and going.
Not here.
And we don't really matter.
Somewhere else.
Biggest facility in the world was put out there, and we're the guinea pigs for it.
Yep.
And that is not the way things should be. It's become real clear to me that neither government nor industry really understands how this technology operates. We've had 4 fires in 5 years. So I was out there on Thursday when it was, and you can see the smoke coming out, and I saw it starting to dissipate. I was out there with Felix Cortez from KSBW, and we were seeing it going down, and I figured, okay, that's their system, they're cooling it down, there's no problem. I go home, and then we got fired. And what happened at that point? Somewhere that system broke down, and water doesn't work once you get that thing on fire. A lot of people have said, hey, let's put sand on it, let's put foam on it, let's do things like that. It doesn't work. We've got a technology here which there is no way to control a fire. I made a comment a few days ago, which I stand 100% behind, and I said, this is a 3-mile island event for this industry.
Yep.
If any of you know in 3 Mile Island, nobody died there. Nobody died at 3 Mile Island. But what it did, it scared people, and this should scare people, and it created skepticism about the nuclear energy, and this should create some skepticism about the battery storage industry. It led to new regulations. Effective regulations on nuclear power, and we need new and effective regulations over here, not just here, all through the state. As Tanya has said, this is bigger than this area, and it caused a halt and a pause on the building of these. You know, I'm all for green energy, but I'm for safety first.
Largest one in the world, in our backyard. I live 1 mile away from them. My family has lived here for 5 generations. The whole entire place has been taking over and growing without any one of you knowing what is actually happening whatsoever in that area.
In addition to the community meeting, there is a local environmental official who has now said they are not testing for toxins and chemicals that may have been released from the lithium plant because they don't know what they're looking for. Let me repeat, they're not testing because they don't know what they're looking for. This area is known as the salad bowl of America because so much of our vegetables, greens, as well as fruits are produced here in Northern California and provide it to the rest of the country. Yet the environmental official here is saying they're not testing the crops because they don't know the contaminants they're looking for. Yet they've told residents they could come home and it's safe to be home.
The fire burned so intensely that county health leaders say any toxins released from the 350,000 megawatt battery facility stayed low to the ground and did not go up with a large plume of smoke. Monday, those health leaders reiterated that air monitoring conducted by the EPA did not detect levels of hydrogen fluoride above the normal range. There are currently no plans to test the soil or waterways.
Some would say, why not just do it now? We got EPA here, we've got the federal resources here, let's just do it. Have them do it.
I don't necessarily think that would be prudent, just to pull samples when we don't necessarily know what we're looking at.
It's unfortunately the same playbook we've seen in Flint, East Palestine, and so many other places. Nothing to see here. Don't panic. The following interviews were done yesterday with 2 residents who live nearby, describing their health symptoms and the lack of answers the community is getting. Hey, it's Jordan. I am delighted to be joined by Laurie. Unfortunately, we are speaking during another public health disaster, an environmental disaster, which is not getting a lot of attention. This time, it is in Northern California, where one of the world's largest lithium battery plants has had a massive fire, which is spreading all sorts of toxic chemicals all over the place, which not just in the immediate area, but as far from what I could tell, 50 miles, 100 miles, I've seen people posting. And you and your family live 8 miles. Let me just tell people where this is. This is at a lithium plant in Monterey County in Northern California. It's called Vistra Energy. I'll just read from the New York Times here. The plant owned by Vistra Energy is one of the largest battery storage sites in the world and holds tens of thousands of lithium batteries that store electricity for the power grid. As of now, it's unclear how the fire started. Let's talk about this. Started on Thursday, last Thursday. And when did you start experiencing symptoms? Again, you're living 8 miles from the plant.
Yes, so Thursday, I was actually down south at my mom's when it started. I saw it in some of our neighborhood groups, and I had some important errands and things to do at home on Friday. So I was watching the news, to kind of see if it was safe to come home, and didn't really hear very much definitive information. And so in the morning early, I decided to drive home because they were telling us it was okay to go back.
Who was they were telling you that it was fine to go back?
So there were local news broadcasts. The KSBY station was broadcasting press conferences, and the press conference actually started when I was driving back. So I was listening to it as I was driving up through the Salinas Valley. And when I got to Soledad, which is probably about 40 miles away from the site of the incident, I started feeling burning in my throat and lungs inside the car as I was driving. And I got home around 11:30 in the morning on Friday. And my dog and I, walked from the car into the house. And my dog actually threw up twice before we went in the house. And then, so I was kind of keeping him inside and my cat inside, and I was inside. But I did have an appointment that I had to deal with outside because I was getting a propane delivery. And so I was outside for probably about an hour. And then the symptoms were pretty bad. So I decided to kind of just stay inside and lay low.
And this was on the day of the fire?
This is actually Friday.
Okay.
The day after it started. So it was burning. A lot of the smoke on Friday, I think, got worse in my direction. I'm literally about between 8 and 9 miles from the site, directly due east. So pretty directly in line. And the winds changed and it was blowing towards us. So it was pretty bad. And I have kind of a view. I'm up on a hill, so I can kind of see towards a little bit towards Moss Landing. My neighbor's at the top of the hill and she can actually see the facility from her house. And then I can also see towards Watsonville and towards Aromas proper, the town of Aromas, which I'm a little bit outside of because it's rural. So I could watch kind of the smoke as it moved and the winds changed.
When you were driving back, you said your lungs started to burn. Like, how far were you from home when that happened?
So when I was in Soledad, when my lungs started burning, but I could see, I drive that way every week, at least once. And I could see the cloud kind of above Monterey and North Monterey County, kind of out over the ocean, all the way from south of King City, which is probably about 80 miles away from my house, or
wow.
70 miles, I think. Yeah. Wow. And it was like this greenish brown cloud hanging over the area. So I was kind of observing it the whole way. Obviously it was on my mind. I was listening to the press conference during that time that was taking place. It started at 10 and I think it ended at around 11, just before I got home. So that was kind of my experience coming up to it.
But you were having these respiratory issues like over 50 miles away from your house.
Yes. I started feeling it over 50 miles away from my house, with the windows rolled up, with the air in my car turned off, because I was aware of what was going on. So, and I was actually I was kind of listening to see, should I turn back? Should I stay at my mom's? Should I go home? I have a cat there, so I was really concerned about the animal because he's an indoor-outdoor cat, so I wanted to check on him. And then I, had to work the next day and do my appointment that I had to do.
And being outside, you said you were outside the next day for about an hour. What other symptoms developed?
Well, I didn't really notice it right away. I did start noticing my tongue felt like it was burning and like there was a metallic taste. That taste actually started on the Friday also when I was driving up, but it got worse. Metallic taste in my mouth. I have that now. And then my tongue started feeling raw and like it had like sores on it on Friday and then especially on Saturday, the next morning before work. And then when I looked in the mirror at myself right before I was ready to go to work, I realized on my face it looked like it was burned, like my cheeks and my nose, and I had kind of a large sore kind of burnt area on the side of my nose, and then on a couple little lesions. They weren't large, but they were like not really blisters, but almost like pimples or something. But the entire area of my cheeks and nose looked burned.
I'll you had sent me pictures. I'll show that, but you could see there your cheeks are irritated. It looks like a bit of a sore on your left side, and then your nose is definitely red. And yeah, we're now, days later, and you could still see you have some bit of a rash on your face.
Yeah, it's definitely better. And I did go to work, which is about 22 miles away or so. So I was a little further away, got a little bit of fresh air for a few hours, but then I went home again. So my face is better now. I'm actually not at my house now. But it was definitely bad on Saturday. It was probably the worst day.
And I want to read, this is just a little bit on what kind of contaminants are produced from a lithium ion battery fire. Not to scare you, but when you mention you're kind of have a metallic taste, that would match with the runoff from such fires include elevated levels of lithium with heavy metals that include nickel, manganese, and cobalt. You also have other contaminants that can be produced. Most alarming would be hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen chloride, and sulfur dioxide. And I'm seeing online, I'm sure you are, just a whole lot of people complaining of health symptoms, including nosebleeds, headaches, nosebleeds, nausea, dizziness. Can you kind of talk about, obviously this is California, so people are scattered and people are posting from as close as a few miles to as far as 50 miles. But have you talked to others who are experiencing health symptoms? What else have you heard?
I have heard people mention that they're having nosebleeds, they're coughing, and definitely respiratory problems. I'm in a couple of local Facebook groups, just about, in the area because, like in Santa Cruz and Monterey, and these are towns that are about 25 miles from the site. People in those areas are definitely having symptoms. People over in Hollister, which is quite a bit inland for me, were having symptoms, and there's even a little bit of like mountains in between. So it seems like the people most affected are kind of in the Monterey Bay, which is kind of like a low-lying area with a couple of mountain ranges around it. I'm just kind of on the edge of that, so that a lot of people in Watsonville, I mean, the wind, I think, blew that direction. So people in Watsonville, Aptos, Santa Cruz, they're all experiencing a lot of symptoms.
And let me read a little bit more about lithium ion batteries and fires. Given the wide range of potential chemicals, there's an equally wide span of chemical hazards in terms of their toxicity, reactivity, and flammability, hazards that can pose both short and long-term effects. Some of these chemicals are well characterized in terms of exposure hazards that include acceptable inhalation concentration levels, and in some cases, threshold levels for skin contact. For example, hydrogen fluoride, which is uniquely dangerous, strong inorganic acid, has been found in smoke for lithium ion batteries at levels approaching 600 parts per million. Unfortunately, what's troublesome about this, and it's not my first rodeo dealing with the EPA, I don't know what they're testing for. I don't know what equipment they're using to test for it. It seems that very quickly, folks were given the all clear sign to return home. I don't know what that was based on, because you mentioned the winds, which move the plume of smoke. It's unpredictable. So tell us about the response from your local government and EPA. What have you been told, and do you trust it?
I do not trust the response. There was a press release from our local air quality control board in Monterey that said they did not have the equipment to test for the hydrofluoric acid. And a lot of what we're being told is that it's safe, but it's also unknown. So I don't quite know how they can say it's both safe to be home or be there, but also have it be unknown. And then the point of testing, and they're doing air testing, I guess. I haven't heard anything about water testing or soil testing. But many of the test areas are actually only inside the facility. And then there's just a couple of testing points that are beyond the facility, like they're near the facility, very close. And then there are maybe 1 or 2 or 3, maybe at the most, that are a little further out. But I don't think they're testing like a lot of these populated areas.
Right.
A lot of what's around the actual plant is the Elkhorn Slough, part of the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary. So it's a very sensitive ecological area. There's a dairy, there are cattle. I heard a story about someone bringing a trailer to evacuate their cattle out of the area. It was about 16 head of cattle, and they were turned away. They were told they would be arrested if they went to get the cattle. They weren't allowed in. And then the person said that they then perhaps the sheriff could come with them so he could feed the cattle, but they wouldn't let them even give the cattle food or water. So that was not good. And then I heard another story on social media where a woman had a sick child at home and went out to take her kids to school. And then when she went to return to her child, they wouldn't let her through. And she did not take no for an answer and basically went through. And then later her husband tried to get through and heard the story from the person at the roadblock. And the husband said, well, you're lucky she didn't run you over. You know, no
Wow.
one comes between a mother, you know, my wife and her kids.
Right.
So
You know,
those are just the types of stories we're hearing.
I want to bring up something else because, of course, you know, we're most focused on the immediate area and all of your health, but this affects all Americans because this area, particularly Salinas Valley, is known as the salad bowl of America, or salad bowl of the world. It produces the farming in this area produces 70% of America's lettuce, and it grows over 80 different types of fruits and vegetables annually. 90% of North America's artichokes, and just going down the list, dominant production of lettuce, broccoli, spinach, strawberries, Driscoll's strawberries, which everybody knows in the supermarket. They kind of have a big monopoly. They are produced here. Cauliflower, celery. I don't know what, if any, crop or soil testing is being done, but I don't think it's dramatic to say that when you have this mass fire and who knows what chemicals in the air and then the ash falling from the air, this could be problematic to the nation's vegetable supply.
Yes, and a lot of the growers in our area grow organic. So there's a lot of organic lettuces, organic strawberries, small organic farms that are more local, but a lot of very much national, large lettuce, spinach, strawberries, kale, you know, a lot of broccoli, Brussels sprouts, artichokes.
Oh, great! We're all so
Too. The
right.
further afield, there's wine grapes also. So.
And obviously, it's a busy time. We're speaking on Inauguration Day. You got the Los Angeles wildfires and a whole lot of other things going. But it's been pretty startling to me that this. I mean, I've seen a little bit of media attention, but not much. I mean, this is like the world's one of the world's largest lithium battery plants. As I described earlier, I mean, it stores, it's storing thousands of lithium ion batteries, tens of thousands of lithium ion batteries. And like we just said, this affects vegetables and fruits. Have you seen like a lot of national attention on this in the media?
No, and I've actually been looking out for it because this is the fourth fire that have been at lithium ion battery facilities in the area. We have two facilities that are basically next door to each other. We have Vistra, which is the one that caught on fire this time. It's been on fire 2 other times. And then there's a PG&E facility that is adjacent to it. So they kind of also point fingers at each other a little bit about, oh, it wasn't us this time. But typically, the news is suppressed, especially in the national media, about these accidents. The very first one I heard about from a neighborhood group, people who were listening to the scanner. And at that point, they did not have any legislation that required the local fire department to be coordinated with. And we have a 36-person fire department who had sent people to Los Angeles to help them that had to respond to this. Not that they can do anything, but they come and, watch it, I guess, and, report and watch it burn. I'm sure they do a lot more than that, but there's not, their hands are a little bit tied as far as how much they can do with that type of fire. But after the after the PG&E fire in 2022, that also closed Highway 1 for 8 hours. That was not very, widely publicized either. Much less actually than this has been. But that is what spurred the legislation requiring coordination with the local fire and EMS services.
It just seems, from Flint to East Palestine, Ohio, which had the train derailment and chemical detonation. There's been lithium ion battery burning in Piqua, Ohio, which I've covered. Then you have the chemical fire in Conyers, Georgia in September. And it just seems like a similar playbook where somehow within days, the local health department, the EPA says everything's fine. All these chemicals we're not detecting anything out of order. Everybody could come home, but the residents are having health symptoms. And if you're lucky, you get a settlement years later, but who knows about the long-term health effects. Lastly, what are your concerns for you and your neighbors about potential long-term impact?
Well, I'm mostly concerned about young people because obviously I'm a little bit of an older person. I'm very upset because it's in such an ecologically sensitive area, as well as being in a somewhat populated area. I can't help but think they put it in this area because we're not as populated as like San Jose or the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, that's where the energy is used. There,
right.
The bulk of that energy has to travel 50 miles up to that area to be utilized. I mean, we're probably not using all of that energy that's stored up there. So, if it's safe, why don't they put it in big cities where it's used?
Right. Absolutely.
I'm just angry. I'm angry.
I don't blame you. I'm sorry for what you guys are going through. I will continue talking to more folks, and please keep in touch. And I guess, unfortunately, try to stay inside as best you can.
Yes. Well, I did come to my mother's about 100 miles away. So I'm out of the area right now, but there's still a lot of people who can't do that. So I feel for them. And I'm wondering if, you know, there's a acid respirator that is something people could wear, you know, to help protect them from these chemicals. But we haven't heard anything like that, like what we can do. It almost makes me think they're not saying that because they don't want to admit anything. And the other thing is our governor has been completely mute. I haven't heard one word from him about it. And it's his pet project. He not only does he want these facilities, he and the state legislature passed laws like AB 205, which make it so local planning departments don't have any say in these facilities. So basically the people who are in these areas have no say about whether or not they're in their communities.
Right. Hey, thank you for taking the time, Laurie. I'll stay in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Sheryl. Unfortunately, we're here to talk about a ongoing disaster, I think, in Northern California, and it affects not only the residents, but potentially everyone, because this is in the, quote, salad bowl of the world, where 70% or so of America's greens and vegetables are made here. On Thursday of last week, there was a fire that erupted at the Moss Landing battery plant, which holds lithium ion batteries. The plant, owned by Vistra Energy, is one of the largest battery storage sites in the world and holds tens of thousands of lithium ion batteries that store electricity for the power grid. And Sheryl, I mean, you're 18 miles from there, but I'm seeing folks, I mean, everywhere from just a few miles from there all the way to like 50 to 100 miles talking about headaches, dizziness, nosebleeds, respiratory issues. And I know you've had a bunch of everything. Can you talk to me? When did your symptoms start and what are you experiencing?
Well, everything started mostly because the fire started on Thursday, and by Friday morning I was having metallic taste, trouble breathing. So it kind of started out with that kind of stuff, not being able to breathe, coughing, the metallic taste, the headaches that do not, no matter what I take, I can't get rid of them, and dizziness. So as the days have progressed, the days that I was gone, like on Saturday, I felt fine. Came back here and felt terrible. Yesterday, I could not breathe. I just could not breathe at all when I got up. So I tried my inhaler, and I have an emergency inhaler. I don't normally have to use it. And I was using my inhaler. I could not get breath. I had to have somebody drive me to Pacific Grove, about 30 miles away, and on the beach there, just to get the breathing back to where I could actually breathe and get full breaths and everything. We've been having some weird metallic tastes going on here too. Friday, it's not copper, it's something else. And Saturday, we definitely got a different tasting something in the air. We have an air purifier going, and I notice that when I go to a room that's closed off in the house or outside, breathing starts having problems again. I've gotten sores on top of my tongue, and those are painful. So we've had a lot of, and I've also looked at different groups outside of our little area here right by the plant, and even the towns on either side of us are reporting symptoms. Oh, nosebleed, that's another one. So, and I've noticed that one trending through different groups. And I do think it's wherever the plume is going. So some people do not have anything, but others of us that live nearby, our little canyons are getting socked in with this. And
I just want to read, because you mentioned the metallic taste, which a lot of people are complaining about. This is, what types of contamination do lithium ion battery fires produce? And the runoff from these fires include elevated levels of lithium, but also heavy metals, including nickel, manganese, and cobalt. So,
Nickel was a taste I did get yesterday, and yeah, there was definitely a nickel taste on top of the metallic, weird chemical taste.
right,
It, yeah, it's not a normal, it's not like you put a penny in your mouth. This stuff is,
right.
you can tell it's not right.
And these types of fires also can produce really toxic stuff like hydrogen fluoride, which is very dangerous in high quantities, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen chloride, sulfur dioxide. This is not my first rodeo, so frankly, I don't know what the EPA is even testing for, and I don't know what equipment they're using, because there's been issues in the past where they're using not the best equipment to test for these toxins. We know what happened in East Palestine with the train derailment and that big chemical plume. Your symptoms, were you experiencing them mostly when you went outside, or you were even experiencing them
In my
indoors?
house.
Oh my
Because
Lord.
first thing they told us was to shut our house up. So I did. And it's an older house, so we're not exactly sealed in here. We're not supposed to run anything that brings in outside air. So a lot of us turned off our heaters and just trying to stay indoors as much as I can.
Hmm.
But I do notice when I go away from the area, I feel a lot better.
Hmm. And I see your cute canine there. Was he having, or he or she having anything?
Yeah, my smaller dog, my little chihuahua, he started having coughing and sneezing through his nose. And so I started checking him because I thought foxtail or something because we're out in the country, but it wasn't normal. And as soon as we started running the air purifier or we got him out of area with me, he was fine. The bigger dog doesn't seem to be showing any symptoms, or the cats, but he definitely was showing something. And he got relief when I removed him from the area. And then when we started running the filtration system.
Wow. And can you kind of talk about, obviously there's a Facebook page that's popped up. There's going to be a meeting tonight. Obviously there's a lot of, stuff surfacing online, but in terms of your neighbors or friends you've spoken with in your neck of the woods, other places, you hearing from a lot of other people, similar symptoms?
Yes, I thought it was very interesting because some people I talked to, like my best friend, I had her go out of town because she had that availability to go to her brother's. And she is on the top of their canyon and she didn't have any symptoms. She was completely fine. So I've been checking in with various people and checking on Facebook, and it's the places that I've been seeing it more with my friends are the ones that live at the bottom of these little canyons that we have, or at
Hmm.
the end at the bottom, like I am. So, and I've also been noticing some people in Castroville, which is the town over that they evacuated to out of Moss Landing. Even some of those friends have been experiencing some burning, throat burning. I had that as well, um, and some coughing. So they're starting to get some of the symptoms we've been having here. So I
Hmm.
think as the wind changes and the plume goes, it gets different people and then settles down in our fog. The reason why we have such great produce here is because we have a fog layer that comes in. But somebody had posted on Facebook that they were noticing, usually when the fog comes in, it rolls in and it's fog. They've been noticing something from the fields going up into that fog
Right.
layer that they'd never seen before. And
Right.
these are people that have lived here forever, since the
Hmm.
80s.
And
You would notice those things.
speaking of that, I don't want to be dramatic or alarm people, but I mean, this area, Salinas Valley. It's called the salad bowl of America or the world. I mean, as much as 70% of America's vegetables or greens that go in salads is produced here. It is over 80 different types of fruits and vegetables annually are produced on farms here. We're talking lettuce, broccoli, spinach, strawberries, Driscoll Farms, which Driscoll Strawberries is made here. Everybody knows
Dole.
that. Dole.
Dole is also here. Ready Pack. Anything that you see in a bag, it probably comes from here.
So, I mean, I don't know what chemicals were produced from this fire. I don't know what the EPA is testing for. I don't even know if they're testing farmland yet. So this has potential to contaminate a whole lot of farmland that produces the rest of America's veggies and fruits.
Yeah. I think it very much could.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of so far? It seems like other disasters I've seen, you pretty much got like a, hey, everything's safe alert, go home pretty quickly, which I don't know how they would be able to declare that because the fire was going on for several days. What did you think of the response from the local government as well as the EPA?
Terrible. They're not telling us much. They're telling us that there's nothing in the air. It's perfectly safe. They lifted the evac pretty fast and told everybody to come home. And they're not communicating much of anything. Like the alerts, not much. And they're telling us it's safe, but I'm sorry, if we're having this kind of reaction, it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had people find machines to kind of check it, but yeah, we do not know if they're checking for any of those chemicals. And you're getting conflicting stories. One is lithium battery. Oh, there wasn't any lithium batteries in there. Yeah, there was. And you can see from, satellite pictures of the thing. And this isn't our first fire from here.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had more. And last time they did the same thing. A lot of us believed that they would put in place. When I was looking at the news things, nobody had they have to submit a plan saying, hey, what are we going to do in a case like this? And it looked like not even the city officials or anybody had access to these plans.
Right. And also obviously there's a big push for electric vehicles. There's a lot of countries have the cobalt and other crucial materials. So obviously this has been a pet project of Governor Newsom, these lithium battery plants. So on one end, it's better than burning fossil fuels, but on the other end, you need safe storage, clearly, so it seems like they want to just kind of move on as quick as possible, despite there not being any thorough testing. Because with this fire, you have combustion and a whole lot of byproducts.
Well, the other thing is we are a marine sanctuary. That thing is right in the middle, right there on the coast. And it's right in the middle, right by the Elkhorn Slough, which is a marine sanctuary, and out on the bay. It's right there. And the tides and everything go right into the bay and then back. We get a lot of our fish from there. So it's not, my concern isn't just for produce and the people. It's also for our bay that we work so hard to get this whole area. We're bringing back a lot of clams, and there's a lot of stuff that Mbari is doing locally. And now we got this thing that keeps catching on fire, and it's right there, right by these places that are, I can't even think of the word. My brain is with the headaches. Things aren't getting rid of it, but you know what I'm talking about. And what's going to happen with that?
Also, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on. We're talking on the day of the inauguration. You got the LA wildfires, but I think mainstream media is pretty terrible anyway. But even for that, I've seen, other than like some local news articles, I've seen very little attention on this in the media, which seems bizarre considering, like we said, this is like 70% of America's greens and vegetables and fruits are manufactured here. So this affects the whole country.
And a lot of us have reached out to local news. We tried to reach out to various things to get some sort of attention saying, hey, we're still having symptoms and we don't feel like this is being taken care of, or we also don't feel like they're putting, where are they putting all of these testing things that they're doing? And what are, like you said, what are they testing for? And are they going out farther because this stuff rises up and goes into the atmosphere and moves?
Right.
So something right next to the plant may not have much to tell them.
And also the wind is everything. So as
Yes.
the wind changes, I mean, it could be mostly dropping ash in one area today.
Yeah.
By tomorrow, be 20 miles somewhere else. And I don't know how they're tracking that. But based on what I've seen, it seems very kind of focused on the immediate area. And I mean, we've covered the East Palestine disaster in Ohio. And I mean, the EPA's own officials acknowledged that the testing equipment they were using was not really equipped to even detect certain levels of contamination. So it just kind of seems like the same playbook here. Last year, September, there was a chemical plant factory in Georgia. Chlorine gas was spreading in the air. So, and California with the geography, I mean, you got valleys and all sorts of different topography. So I know that there's a meeting tonight. Can you kind of talk about, it seems like community members are coming together. There's a Facebook page. What has been the communication? Because it seems like residents are having to band together because they're not getting.
That's exactly what's happening is I'm getting, I'd say 100% of my information from Facebook media, Facebook posting things when they find things. So when they find, numbers from local things saying that it's, people have had testers in their home. I forgot the name of it, but it is on that Moss Landing thing list that you're on. And so that's where I'm getting all my information from, because I can't trust the media. They're just regurgitating whatever they're being told by the officials and I don't trust Vista at all.
Right.
They've done this before, and now we got another one, and it's the same exact playbook they did last time.
And I should specify, thanks for saying that, Vista had fires before at this location.
Yes.
So,
and I got cancer last year. I don't have any genetic markers for it. And we lost a dog due to brain cancer. So my question is, what's going into our water? We're all Prunedale's wells and septic tanks. We don't have city water here. And it feels like they're not really informing. And there's a lot of people that are going by what the media told them and basically poo-pooing anybody that has symptoms.
Right.
Oh, you must be sick. I'm not sick.
And can you describe for people not from California, the plant is in Monterey County and the surrounding areas. I mean, you got valleys and canyons, but is this a rural area, more urban, mixed?
It's mixed. So Prunedale, Moss Landing, Elkhorn, all of those areas would more than likely have a well system, and it's more rural. You get into Salinas and Monterey, you're into a more city looking area. So it's just, that right around that plant is mostly not a lot, not a big population for a city. We're all kind of more country.
And I take it they're not saying, stay indoors, don't go to work.
They told us to stay indoors, keep our windows and doors shut. That's the only advice they've given us.
But what about if you have to go to work or,
Then you drive to work and you hope that they keep you indoors. If not, you're outside and you're working. There's a lot of people out here that have livestock. They have to go out and deal with their cows and their sheep and everything else. And their livestock is at risk. And there's also, families that raise their own cows and things like that. Like my neighbor across the street, what's he going to do with his cows? They can't go indoors.
But also, I mean, if their livestock is inhaling God knows what, and that's then being, shipped off for steak or whatever else, milk.
Well, they
Not good.
raise it for local people who want to, have grass-fed beef that's organic and treated well. That's one of the big things about having a neighbor with a cow, raising cattle. You can buy from them and get really safe meat, or 4-H can do it. So, yeah, the warnings aren't very good. They're not, stay indoors and keep your doors shut and everything. That's what they told us last time. So,
And lastly, I mean, you were talking about nosebleeds, which is pretty serious. I mean, before this happened last week, where you mentioned cancer, but other than that, were you relatively healthy? You weren't having these nosebleeds?
oh no, I don't get nosebleeds. That's not normal for me.
Right.
Same thing with the sores on my tongue. They cropped up on the top of the tongue, and those aren't normal stuff
Right.
for me. And and I'm noticing other people that are posting about bleeding noses and all that, not normal for them. And I've noticed a lot of them are people in Moss Landing closer to the plant, children
Right.
with nosebleeds. And the only advice we can give them is get out.
Right.
But what if you don't have money to go anywhere?
Because even if you're indoors, I mean, you could have air purifiers going, but that doesn't mean stuff can't get through your furnace or whatever else.
Well, yeah, and if you don't, like me, I live in an older home. We don't have this thing sealed up. We have very
Right.
mild weather here.
Right.
Air gets in and out
Right.
and a lot of our homes out here are older homes.
Mhm.
And we don't worry about it because, like I said, mild weather.
Right. But when you have this cocktail of chemicals and ash from fire coming out of the sky, that's not a good combination.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we will stay on this. Sorry you're going through this. And yeah, people should pay attention because this is happening in more places than people think. East Coast, West Coast, you got the wildfires there too. But people, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, we're becoming kind of the United Sacrifice Zones, if you ask me. So be well, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for paying attention to what we're going through and letting others know.
Absolutely. Thank you.